Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Talk Sox video. As Brandon and I, and probably most of you, are waiting for this trade deadline to happen, we're waiting to see who the Red Sox are going to get, who they're going to kick off the team. But it's all just, we're just waiting, man. We're just waiting. However, there's something else we want to talk about, and that is playoff and World Series odds here. Again, everything we say here is speculative, nothing is set in stone, and even the kind of percentages of where the Red Sox lie, it's all kind of boulder dash at the end of the day because anything can happen, as everybody knows in the MLB. So, Brandon, I'm going to throw it over to you. What do you think the Red Sox are looking like when it comes to getting to one, the playoffs, and two, the World Series in 2025?
Yeah, I'll just throw some numbers out there. I'll note, obviously, as Ethan said, at the time of recording, the trade deadline is 1 week away, which obviously, once trades start happening, these odds are going to fluctuate a lot, both for the Red Sox and the teams around them. So this is, again, just sort of a temperature check on where things stand right now, coming out of the All-Star break, early on in the second half, right before the trade deadline madness starts. But the numbers as it stands is that the Red Sox have about a 5% chance to win the AL East, which is obviously not the best. It doesn't help, obviously, that the Blue Jays and Yankees have been playing pretty good baseball recently. But the good news is their wild card odds are about 40%. If you add those two together, their playoff odds are about 45%. And then, again, World Series odds are a very arbitrary thing. They can change on a whim with really anything, whether it's an injury, a trade, a team above you playing poorly or a team below you playing well. But their World Series to make the World Series are roughly about 2%. So again, those are all just sort of numbers, to mull over. But I think the important thing to realize is the Red Sox still have an uphill battle to climb. We've talked in recent weeks. Obviously they had that really big 10-game win streak right prior to the All-Star break. Things were really looking up, but it's important to remember the team dug itself a hole early in the season, especially right after that Rafael Devers trade. There was that little cold stretch, and that means the Red Sox still have work to do to get themselves into real playoff position. Obviously, where the standings are right now, looks like they'll lock up a wild card in the American League, but it's a really hotly contested battle because obviously one of the Yankees and Blue Jays is going to win the AL East probably, which means one of the other teams is going to get a wild card. And so from there, the Red Sox are competing with, themselves, the Rays, the Mariners, the Rangers, maybe the Guardians if they decide to buy at the trade deadline. So it's sort of all in flux right now, but it is a positive development given the way the team's played, that their playoff odds are nearing 50%. It's just, again, they still have an uphill battle to climb.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, there's so many examples of teams in the past that were in the wild card slot and then, made it pretty far. Take the Mets, for example. The Mets, kind of were, I don't want to say the worst, they weren't the worst team, but they definitely weren't, huge contenders. And I don't think people were really counting on them. But by the end of the time, we almost had a Subway Series on our hands.
Yeah.
So I think, especially for the Red Sox, they have such a tailored history of getting to the playoffs to start with that I wouldn't be surprised if they made it. I still worry about them making it to the actual World Series, just looking at our lineup right now. And again, things are could change drastically barring what happens at the trade deadline, as well as injuries. I mean, there's so many things I think we need to fix. I think we need more starting pitchers. We have people just coming up from the minor leagues. So it's all kind of topsy-turvy when it comes to the standing of the Red Sox overall.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I don't believe that anything is set in stone, obviously, until it happens. We've seen so many, of these playoff races go down to the wire in September, where game 163s are needed, or, where tiebreakers need to decide who's going to the playoffs. So again, these playoff odds, that we have right now, as you said, like it's not a huge deal at this point, especially prior to the trade deadline. These things are going to change soon once these rumors start actually becoming real trades. But I think it's worth keeping in mind as a fan that regardless of what happens, as long as the Red Sox keep themselves in playoff position, as you said, Ethan, anything can happen in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's just if they get a wild card spot, sure, they're gonna have a taller hill to climb than say like the Tigers will, who are gonna get the first seed in a bye. But it's still in the playoffs. You just a hot streak in the playoffs is a trip to the World Series. So overall, I don't think that these things need to be taken too seriously right now. I think it's more important to keep in mind the fact that even as the Red Sox get hot, the playoff picture is, it's a league-wide thing. It's not just about how the Red Sox are performing. It's how are the Mariners performing? How are the Rays performing? How are the Yankees performing? How are all these other teams doing relative to what the Red Sox are doing? And that's really what's most important right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Do you think we have a good chance on making it to the World Series? I know you feel like we have a pretty good chance making it to the playoffs, but if you don't, let's hear your comments below.